everyone, welcome to Sisters in the Scriptures, and today we are going to be sharing some nuggets we have got from this book, Before You Meet Prince Charming. Rachel and I have done this study twice, and I'm wanting to do it again with other young ladies, and hopefully this video will encourage you to do so.
Okay, so I'm going to start by sharing what I got from the first chapter, and the title is Desire the Very Best Marriage. And so it says, a true princess realizes this danger, and it's talking about the temptation of like a boy-girl relationship. It says, a true princess realizes this danger and understands her own need to be protected. This is not evidence of weakness or fear, but rather it is evidence of true courage. It requires courage to do things God's way, to wait for his timing, and to trust that he will bring you and your husband together according to his perfect plan. It takes courage to obey when you don't understand. And what really stuck out to me was that it takes courage to wait, and it takes courage just to allow God to bring you and your future husband together. But the question is, am I really going to allow God to do that for me? Or am I going to, in my own timing, go out and find a guy? But that's probably what, really stuck out to me. And then with rules, it says don't tolerate them. That's not enough. You must make them your own. It is your heart, your own choices before the Lord, that will make the difference. Only those who have formed their own personal commitments, rooted in a desire to please the Lord, will have the strength required to remain pure and the discernment needed to escape temptation.
Okay. The notes I got was, do I desire the very best marriage? Or do I want to get married to fulfill my desire of marriage? Marriage is supposed to be a picture of Christ in the church. And if we marry whoever we want, it won't be like that. It'll be chaotic. If we marry someone just because they're handsome or talented, your marriage, put simply, will be tough. I desire the very best marriage so we can help each other grow in the Lord and serve Christ, raise godly children, and picture Christ in the church. These things are harder to do with an unsaved spouse and with a spouse that is not the right one. Desiring the very best marriage usually means you must wait longer, but it is worth it. While you wait to prepare for marriage and motherhood and keep serving Jesus.
Okay, so on chapter 2, the title is Follow the Lord, Not the Culture. And it's basically talking about, what the title says. It's, following after Christ instead of following the world and the way the world is doing things. And one thing that stuck out to me was one of the parts. It says, the walls of the castle were built not to confine, but to protect. So basically, our home is built to protect, not to keep you away from everything, basically. It's just, your parents were set there to protect you, because there are some things that you don't need to be doing, or you don't need to see, or you don't need to hear, and they're protecting you from that. And then it says that you are a candle not to be hid under a bushel, but set on a candlestick. So basically, you need to be protected, but then also the reason for that protection is so that you can be a light to those around you. Now, and if you're fitting in with those around you, you're not going to be a light to those people, because you're the exact same as they are. You're no different. But like I said, we're to be a light on a candlestick. And then our role is not to fit into the world, but to change it. And when we are called to live and to give light in a world of darkness. So basically, we're to be in the world, but not of it.
Alright. The ways of the world oftentimes seem easier and better, and you don't have to wait as long, and things seem more at ease. In the end, you will regret it though, and it won't be worth it. There was a story in chapter 2. It talked about the king, I think it was the king and his daughter, the princess, went into the garden, and he explained a white rose to her. And he basically said, a girl is like a pure white rose that has not opened yet. It isn't time to fully bloom yet. When the world starts to catch her eye and pull her in, her petals are being pulled off, and she begins to turn brown and to die. While you wait to bloom, serve Jesus, and you'll become a beautiful, pure white rose.
Yes. Okay, so for chapter 3, the title is Guard Your Heart. And so in the story before, like, she gives a lesson in the book, the story before it is basically the princess has decided to go to this fair, and her father asked her what her intentions were to go. And she basically said to give, to be a friend, you know, and just to show others, you know, that she actually cared about them. So once again, she was going to be in the world, but not of it. She was going to be a light to those around her. And so before she decided that, or before she actually decided she was going, she was struggling with whether she should go or not. And basically, like I said, her father asked what her intentions were. And so she told him, and she made her mind up that she was going. And so one thing was that she wanted to make sure that she was making a wise decision, not a foolish one. And one thing she said was, some make wise ones and some make foolish ones. Some listen to wise counsel and others reject it. But each person decides for himself which course he will take. So none of us are forced to make a decision by anyone. Like, we're really supposed to, you know, like, we need counsel, yes. We need to listen to the counsel. But in the end, we're not really forced to make a decision by Christ in this area of waiting. So the thing is, are we going to listen to wise counsel, and are we going to make a wise decision, or are we going to reject counsel and make a foolish decision? Like I said, Christ is not going to force us to make a decision. He has given us free will, but he wants us to choose wisely.
Okay, that's chapter 3. Okay, so why is it important to guard your heart? If we don't guard our heart from the ways of the world will take it bits and pieces, and maybe big portions of our heart. That is what the dating game does. If that happens, what do we have to offer Christ? What do we have left for our spouse? A Christian woman's goal should be to give her whole heart to Christ and to give her whole heart to her husband. Your wedding day will be so much more special if both of you have saved your hearts for each other.
Yep, so in chapter 4, the title is Could He Be the One? And basically it was talking about flattery and stuff. Like, if a guy is trying to win you with flattery and, you know, different things like that, that's a good sign that he's not a good guy, because he's trying to win you over with something that's a lie, basically. And then, so basically it also asked a question in the study guide: how does a person's motives behind, you know, their words indicate flattery or genuine encouragement? And that was one thing that really hit me, is how am I treating others? Am I flattering them, or am I actually genuinely encouraging them? And even with guys in this area, am I doing that with guys? I would say I'm not, but it just makes me, you know, think every time I'm like talking to guys, or, you know, with a guy, that am I flattering him, or am I just actually genuinely encouraging him? And then also keeping in mind that not every guy that comes and asks about you is going to be the one, because you can only marry one person. So then, yeah, just keeping that in mind. And one thing that I got from the book was when you get married, your goal becomes to please your husband. He's your head, leader, and authority. Think about what would happen if you married someone who is not a believer. How could you submit to a man who did not make his decision based on the Word of God? So basically, we do not need to be married to an unbeliever either if you are a Christian. Like it said, your goal becomes to please your husband, and you're not really going to be able to please them if you aren't on the same page and aren't, really living for the same person. So that's what I got out of that.
Okay, so this chapter goes along with chapter 1. Just because he's talented and handsome and kind, or even a Christian, doesn't mean he's the one. The first young man that approaches may not be the one. Yes, it is exciting, but be careful. In 2 Corinthians 6:14, the Bible clearly teaches only marry a Christian. The wife is to submit to her husband. It will be hard to submit to an unsaved man. He'll want to do something one way, and you know it's wrong, and you want to do it another way, so that it will create more conflict.
Yeah. Okay, so in chapter 5, the title is Romantic Dreams. And, a lot of girls do have romantic dreams. Actually, every girl is gonna have romantic dreams. But it's how she deals with those. So, basically, when you have a crush on someone, Sarah, the author of this book, she gave a list of things that you shouldn't do. And it says, it's probably not best to talk about him with your friends, and don't intentionally do things that will stir up more thoughts about him. Try not to dwell on thoughts of him or let yourself get carried away with your dreamy imaginations. Don't tell him how you feel about him, chase him, or try to drop hints that you're interested. Rather, when thoughts about young men arise, use these as a springboard to direct you to pray and delight in the Lord. Several young ladies have told me that they choose specific prayer targets, as such an unsaved friend or a missionary, and a purpose to pray for this individual every time they are distracted by wrong thoughts. I thought that was really good. And, every time that I read this, I'm like, that is so good. I don't really struggle a whole lot with thoughts like that, but if I do, there's definitely people I could pray for, turning it into a springboard effect. But also, other people you could pray for is that specific young man and his future, and just different things like that, and other brothers in Christ, and then your family and just things like that. I know I've done that before, but yeah.
Philippians 4:8 talks about whatsoever is true, whatsoever is pure, and things like that, the things that we should be thinking about. So what are you thinking about? Is it honest, just, pure, lovely to God, or of good report? Our thoughts can carry us captive and cause us to become discontent. Our thoughts can destroy our future too, because our thoughts and dreams may not come true. We may be imagining and thinking about this certain man, real or fake, so much that we miss God's best because we want this certain one. So ask God to help you to only think on pure things and think on things that honor Him. I encourage you to memorize Philippians 4:8 because it reminds you to think of good things.
Yes, so on chapter 6, when God says, the title is When God Says Wait, one thing that I would say stuck out to me was when people don't wait and they do things in their own way, and they're not patient, there are consequences to that, and those consequences are we miss God's lessons, we miss God's best, we miss God's help, and then we miss God's opportunities. So when we fail to wait, there are a lot of things that we miss. And It's always better to wait and then get a blessing in the end, or not to wait and then there's consequences because you didn't wait, and then there's regrets. And so that's definitely one thing that stuck out to me. I want to wait instead of, be impatient and then in the end regret that I didn't wait.
Chapter 6. In our single years, we are to wait patiently and not just wait but be serving Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The way to find a mate is not to look, but to prepare.
Yes.
We will never escape seasons of waiting because God knows how essential it is that we learn this quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is only part 1. Part 2 will be chapter 7 through 12. God bless.